Now, if you're anything like me, you might be in a slight state of confusion, trying to understand why this obsession with Joe Biden and his age and therefore his gaffes is a new thing, because Joe Biden, as far as I'm aware, has been making these types of gaffes for much of his life. He is not a natural public speaker. The guy has a stutter, and to add insult to injury now, he's 81. He decided to step up to run for president when he saw Donald Trump try and support fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. He made it very clear that he'd come out of retirement to do that because he knew that as an old white guy who had spent his life in public office, that he was probably the best person to unify the country, bring people together, and he was right. You know, the critics underestimated him, and he was right. He won the election in 2020, and to all intents and purposes, he has every opportunity to win the election again in November 2024. So why is there so much uncertainty, and why is the Democratic Party kind of eating itself up with the contradictions and the conflict and the hypocrisy over Joe Biden's candidacy? Because, you know, ultimately, Joe Biden is being a great president, and he has been for the last 3.5 years. And nobody has ever really questioned his ability to do the job. But that day of reckoning came on the CNN debate, where he was exhausted from international travel, he was unwell, and he, as I've said many times, is not a natural in that kind of environment with a clock. I should also remind you that I did say in advance that these rules that they put in place, whereby there'd be a light on the podium so that they could see when their mic was turned on and turned off, was never going to stop Donald Trump from steamrolling through. And that's what he did. And I've since watched the debate after Joe Biden said that Trump just did not stop even when he was supposed to stop. And I could see how much Biden was being put off. So I'm not making excuses for him, but this is a reality. And now we've seen him at the NATO summit. He did a great job in NATO. The countries, as Joe Biden quite rightly pointed out, have all celebrated Joe Biden's ability to bring everybody together against the common enemy in Russia over the conflict in Ukraine. And yet all anybody wants to talk about is how Joe Biden slipped up and accidentally referred to Volodymyr Zelensky as Vladimir Putin. He caught himself and corrected it immediately. And then secondly, when he accidentally referred to Kamala Harris as President Trump. Now, these are slip-ups. This is not him being mentally impaired. This is not him being cognitively compromised. These are slip-ups associated with age and with the pressure of these press conferences. You know, he is not great in front of the camera, but he is a great legislator. He is a great public servant, and he was a great public defender. And, you know, people need to judge him on his record. But I recognize that now there is infighting. Now there are questions being asked by Democrats about Joe Biden. And now the media has seen this as an opportunity to get ratings. And this is what they do. They spot an opportunity. It's a standard journalistic thing. Which is the story do I go for? Do I go for the more interesting story, the factual story, the story that is important, or do I go for the story that is easy to get viewers, to get ratings, to get attention? And sadly, that's what's happening with Joe Biden. He's falling foul of a for-profit media whose obsession with ratings see Joe Biden's slip-ups as being as box office as Donald Trump. Now, how is it, and this is really the elephant in the room, how is it that Joe Biden's verbal gaffes are more important than a man who advocates for the fall of American democracy and for fascism? Like, that's the bit that I can't qualify in my own mind, where Joe Biden is supporting women's rights and is supporting human rights and is supporting the rights of Dakar and immigration and people who need support and a step up. You know, Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all of the things that Democrats stand for. Capping the prices of prescription drugs and the like. You know, we've heard their pledges. We've seen what they stand for. We've seen the CHIPS Act and Science Act. We've seen the infrastructure bill. We've seen these bipartisan bills that Joe Biden has successfully got through. We've seen him be a good president and pull it off with aplomb. And yet, still, people are denying that the guy who is running against him, who is responsible for so much of this anti-Biden propaganda, is a dictator. Not a dictator in waiting, a dictator. Somebody who cares not for the institutions of America, somebody who cares not for the people and the voters. Donald Trump has said outright that whatever the result of the election, he will contest it. And now we know he has the support of the Supreme Court and the judiciary in various places after all of these kind of MAGA Republican judges that he put in during his tenure. It's as if the insurrection is ongoing. It's as if Donald Trump is running some kind of shadow operation whereby he thinks he's the president, he has the judiciary at his fingertips, and he will do anything he can to take power. His obsession with strongmen, his obsession with Putin and Xi Jinping, he talks about him like that's what America needs. Brainwashing his supporters into thinking that actually a Trump dictatorship would be better than a Democratic presidency under Joe Biden. It is unthinkable, and yet in this moment the media are choosing the wrong team. And why? Profit. Business. Unfortunately, it is these powerful oligarch-type characters, Donald Trump and these very powerful individuals who are rinsing the public at every opportunity, whether it be with DJT Enterprises, his public trading company for Truth Social, or whether it be asking you for $1 or $2 to support his campaign and effectively pay his legal fees. Whether it be him now manipulating the Republican National Committee and putting Lara Trump in there. Again, funneling funds, campaign finance, fraud at the highest levels. It's as if all of his grifting for decades has finally come to a head, and his ultimate prize is winning back the presidency and restructuring the USA so that he is the king. Meanwhile, Joe Biden stands for what America has always stood for, and that is freedom and human rights and civil rights and women's rights and the right to vote, which is the first thing that Donald Trump will take away. And so we have to be very, very serious about what is happening right now. It's not about Joe Biden accidentally saying Putin instead of Zelensky. It's not about Joe Biden not being able to rise to the occasion in a TV debate. Elections are not television. TV is entertainment. Those debates, I don't know why he agreed to them. I don't think he should do any more. This is about preserving American freedom and democracy. It's not a personality competition. It's not a competition of survival of the fittest. This is just about goodness and doing the right thing. And that's why I think that all of the detractors, all of the people who are trying to turn Joe Biden into some kind of bogeyman, claiming that he is, on his own path and he doesn't understand the bigger picture, I think they're missing the point. Joe Biden is an old white guy. Independents and conservatives will vote for him. They will. They see themselves in him. They recognize that he is a safe pair of hands. The economy is doing great. Inflation is coming down. The stock market had its best day ever. And yet, this negative rhetoric about Joe Biden and his fitness to serve is propaganda that has been created by a media looking for ratings and by some senior Democrats who are having doubts. But I think that they have short memories. Donald Trump hasn't won anything since 2016, and he won that with the help of James Comey making a speech about Hillary Clinton's emails and Russian interference. He didn't win it because he was a great candidate. He's never won the popular vote. Joe Biden will continue to win the popular vote and the presidency. And with the support of Kamala Harris, who is an excellent vice president and undoubtedly rising to the occasion, they as a team are solid. But if you are ageist and if you don't understand about the aging process, a lot of people are confusing dementia with aging. Donald Trump shows clear signs of clinical dementia. Joe Biden does not. The detail is essential. You can't just lump everybody together, So I genuinely feel passionately that we need to get back on track and save this country from this far-right Christian nationalist Project 2025 movement that will take away every freedom that you have gotten used to over the last 100 years. And everything from drinking clean water to being able to care for your own family. Taxes will go up for working people and life will change fundamentally. You will not have the right of reply. You will not have the opportunity to take matters further if you feel aggrieved. You will lose access to all your rights, let alone women's rights and access to abortion. Simple things that we maybe take for granted, but they are all on the line this November. I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me on the 5 Minute News podcast and YouTube channel, co-hosting Uncovered every Wednesday and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.